Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. It's your boy D Black coming back with another SmackDown review. Alright, as I said last week, when I did SmackDown, my last SmackDown review, I said that Sammy, Gunther, and Cody would end up in a triple threat for the undisputed title. And I'm here to tell you, this match right here was crazy. Alright, as we know, Sammy is the special referee. The match gets going, with Gunther and Cody and stuff. And then Cody hits Gunther with the Cody cutter and stuff. And Gunther goes down, but is freed out of the ring and stuff. And then Sammy catches it. For a minute, Sammy was trying to play, trying to be, not with either one of them and stuff. It was more like he was more on Gunther, but he did, stop Gunther from doing some stuff and everything. But anyway, you know, um, throughout the match, Gunther and Sammy started getting into it and everything. And then um, Cody hits Gunther with something, and Gunther hit Cody with something, and he tried to hold the ropes, and then Sammy kicks the ropes and everything, and then Cody pins Gunther with a quick count from Sami Zayn, and apparently he looks like he's going to retain the title. Nick Aldis comes out, and him and Sammy get into it and everything, after the match. And then Cody, didn't like the way how things ended and stuff. So Cody goes back out to the ring and everything. And he's asking for a restart. And then Nick gives the word, and so they have the restart. And Gunther comes back out to the ring and stuff with Sammy and everything. And as the match was going, Gunther was getting the pin on Sammy. And then Sammy gets busted, and he's outside the ring and everything. And then Cody gets a pin on Gunther, but there's no count. And then Gunther does something to Cody, and Cody's down for the count. And the new referee comes in as the referee is counting. Sami Zayn, pulls the ref out of the ring and stuff. And then um, Gunther grabs Cody and he puts him in the chokehold and everything and stuff. And then Cody backs Gunther into the corner and stuff. And then all of a sudden, here comes Sammy. He Haluna kicks Gunther right in the face, and it causes a DQ. You know, and then as the match was going, as it was ending, then the referee comes in, and Sammy he hits the ref, and then all of a sudden, Cody grabs Sammy, and then Sammy hits Cody with the title and everything. So Cody has, Gunther down because of the Haluna kick, Sammy down by hitting him with the belt, and the other referee is knocked out too because he got nailed by Sammy and stuff. But actually, this match is crazy. Like I said, for somehow I don't know where they're going with this. It's going to be the same thing at Night of Champions. They're going to have the triple threat match, and Cody's probably going to retain the title and then go on and go after somebody. Either Jay or um, Oba. At SummerSlam. So that's how it's going to be and everything. It's crazy. Gunther wins by DQ, but it still ended up in a triple threat for Night of Champions. Then you get a backstage with Kathy, talking to Jade, and Jade's you know, um, talking about Tiffany Stratton, you know, um, that Tiffany's afraid of her, and then she said that, to tell Tiffany to put her belt up and stuff. And then Gunther's back there, asking Nick, for another match, at the championship because Cody, how it ended this time, ended up in a DQ because Sammy, caused him the match and stuff. So now he's furious back there and everything. And then as you know, later on in the show, they do get it to where it's going to be a triple threat at Night of Champions. Then we got Jacob and Solo talking, and Solo, um, I mean, I'm sorry, Jacob's telling to make up, to be sure, to do what he's gonna do and everything, if he's gonna come to the family or whatever and stuff like that. Then he's telling Solo that, he's only here, to make sure no one, interferes in the match between Jey Uso and Javon Evans and everything. And then he tells Solo, it's up to him, to come back, to the family and stuff and everything. So it's I gotta wait to see what happens with this, because there's some stuff that happens. Then you got the match with Tama Tonga. Tama Tonga is telling Solo, to stay in the back because they have the match coming up, with R-Truth and Damian Priest for the, World Tag Team titles and everything. So he's telling Solo to stay back because he has, too much on his mind. There's too much going on with him, with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. So they said, basically that they're going to go out and, take care of it, and win the match on their own and win the titles on their own and stuff like that. And then Solo start to say something, then Talla Tonga, kind of shuts Solo down and tells him, hey, look, we're going to go out and we're going to do this, him and his brother and stuff. So we have that. Then we get the match with Damian Priest and R-Truth, against Tama Tonga and Talla Tonga and stuff. The match is a little bit back and forth and everything. Then all of a sudden, Solo Sikoa comes out to the ring. You know, um, he's a distraction and everything, and everything just goes to chaos and stuff. And it ends up with R-Truth rolling up Tama Tonga, for the pin. And now they're trying to blame um, Solo for it because, Solo came out and he, I guess interrupted their flow and everything, and they lose and they're not champions. Damian Priest and R-Truth retain the title and stuff. But then Tama Tonga and Talla Tonga um, look at Solo and they walk away from him. So there's going to be problems there with that situation and stuff. It's going to be interesting to see what Solo does after that. Will he end up going to Roman Reigns and joining the Bloodline? Well, I mean, what's he going to do? He's going to get the MFTs back together. How's this going to work out? Stay tuned. And then Sami Zayn is back. He's talking to Nick Aldis, and they get back into it again, arguing about the match and everything, saying that Sammy was saying that he didn't want to be, the special guest referee. He wasn't involved in that. He was just trying to get something to do on his own and everything down the line, you know. And then he was complaining about, what was he supposed to do when Gunther, power slammed him and everything. It was crazy, you know. So Sammy lost his mind. He did what he did, and it cost Gunther the title and everything. But all through the night, we're going to get all that with them. Then we got Jay, saying that, he's going to take out Javon Evans and everything. They get into their little thing, and Javon says his thing will bring it on and everything. So after all that, then we get Carmelo Hayes and Ricky Saints. That match, it was okay. Actually, it was a pretty decent match and stuff. But again, you know, it's a match that we've been looking at the same for the last month and a half, maybe two, and stuff. So Ricky Saints wins this match and everything. And and Carmelo hits his head on the back of the turnbuckle and everything, and Ricky Saints pins him during that match. So a lot of this stuff, is not really making any sense in all these matches. None of it was really exciting or anything like that. So, but we keep going on. Then Cody is with Nick, and then Cody is saying, "Hey, look, if I can't beat Gunther on my own, then we were just gonna have to have a triple threat match and everything." So he said that he wanted a triple threat match against Sammy and Gunther, for the undisputed title at Night of Champions, and he gets his grant and stuff. Oh man, then we get Charlotte Flair talking to Kathy, saying if she beats Liv tonight, you know, then she'll go on and beat Io Sky, and it'll put her back on top, for another title match, because Charlotte Flair, she is a 14-time world champion and stuff. So we're gonna see whatever happens with that. And then we get the match with Jey Uso and Javon Evans. I mean, the match was okay. Um, to me, I think Javon Evans should have won this match, just to tell a better storyline with it and stuff. But Jey Uso wins the match and everything. It's I don't know, because now Jay is again at another championship that he's not going to win. He's not going to beat Cody, and there will not be two champions in the bloodline. How are you going to have two champions in the bloodline? There's going to be a little bit of rift between the two and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens down the road, see how that goes and stuff. But anyway, you know, um, in this match, actually neither one of them was selling each other's moves and stuff like that. You get hit with something, then they didn't sell it, they get back up and then do something, you know. But then Jay ends up spearing Javon Evans and doing a frog splash on him, and then he gets the win and stuff. So Jay Uso moves on in the King of the Ring to face Oba, which I think Oba's probably not going to win that match. I think Jay will win that because of interference with Brock Lesnar. And I think that's how that's going to end up. It's not going to be that, Jay was able to beat over up front and everything, but with the help of Brock Lesnar, that's what's going to happen. Jay will move on to face Cody at SummerSlam. Watch and see how that happens. You know, and then you got backstage, Solo talking to Jacob, Rome, and he's saying if Rome wants to come to his show, and mess things up for him and stuff like that. Then he said that he's gonna go to Roman's show, and mess up things there and stuff. So I don't know. Solo's gonna probably come to Raw and then try to cause some chaos and see what happens, with that and stuff. And then we get again Cody's backstage congratulating, Jey Uso, on his win, and told him, when he goes face over, not to forget about Oba. And then he says that he's not hard to find if he beats Oba and stuff. So, and you got Sammy telling Jay if he beats Oba, then at SummerSlam, it will be him it will be Jay facing Sammy, but we'll see. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. Uh, and then Charlotte's getting ready to come out to the ring and everything, and then she runs into B-Fab. I mean, Jade Cargill meets in the B-Fab. And Charlotte tells Jade maybe next time, when they have Queen in the ring, she can win it then. Because Jade lost, her qualifying match and stuff. But anyway, after she said that, she walks off, and then all of a sudden, B-Fab, hits in the back of the knee, clips her in the back of the knee, and then then Jade and Meechin and B-Fab start beating up Charlotte, and then Nick Aldis comes out and everything, they try to make sure that Charlotte's okay. And then Liv comes out and she looks at she looks at Charlotte and everything and tells her, hey, good luck. And then she walks out to the ring. Oh man. And so now the medical team and Nick are looking at Charlotte, trying to see if she's good to go as far as the match is concerned. And Charlotte is saying, yeah, she's good and stuff. And then just at the bell ring, Liv attacks Charlotte, at that knee and everything. She's been wearing that knee out, throughout the whole match and stuff like that. But this is crazy because I'm trying to figure out then why is Liv Morgan here and stuff. She's already champion. Why did she get this far in the Queen of the Ring and stuff? It makes zero sense. So what are you saying now that if she does beat Io Sky, which I don't think she's going to beat Io Sky, but if she does beat Io Sky, then she's going to go after Rhea Ripley, but Rhea Ripley's hurt. Is she back yet? I mean, how's that going to happen and stuff? But anyway, I think Io will beat Liv Morgan. It's going to be a pretty good match. But in this match, Liv, like I said, Liv attacks, Charlotte before, the match gets started and everything. It's pretty much back and forth and everything with the both of them and stuff like that. And then Liv was working on that knee and everything of Charlotte's and stuff like that. Charlotte tried to do the figure eight and it didn't work and stuff like that. And then, Liv got that knee again and was working it and working it and working it and stuff. And then, Nick comes back out with the team of medics and stuff like that, trying to make sure Charlotte is good to go. Then Charlotte says, yeah, she's good. She jumps back into the ring. They get going for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, Liv hits Charlotte with Oblivion and everything, and then she rolls back on Charlotte. She gets that knee, and she puts it in a knee bar, and then Charlotte just couldn't take it anymore, and Charlotte taps out. Liv wins, and she moves on in the Queen of the Ring to face Io Sky. SmackDown tonight was a boring. I mean, it was very predictable. All the matches were predictable. Um, and you can see what the outcomes are going to be before the outcomes happen and stuff. But anyway, please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, leave a comment. Let me know how you feel. Man, so SmackDown. So let me know how you feel in the comments. Thank you for watching. God bless. Deuces, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.